All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to I think today's day 50. I don't think I changed that correctly, but either way, all right, of our C Sharp online programming class. Today, I'm going to go over and do this chapters 14 and 16 pretest from scratch. All right, I'm actually may make a few changes in it because I want it to be as close to the actual test that you're taking tomorrow. So tomorrow is the final hands-on test for the semester. It's on chapters 14 and 16, and there's a little bit of 15 in there, but I'm going to show you what that 15 is. Now, to try to make it easier for myself, I did the following. First, I've already cut the lecture for tomorrow where I explain the instructions. It's 20 minutes long. When I send out your email tomorrow, which will be sent out around 6 a.m. to 7 a.m., it's going to have the URL for that presentation in there so you can watch it right away. Since, in my opinion, this is the hardest test that we have to take all semester, rather than having it due by midnight tomorrow, I'm going to make it due by midnight Sunday. So you have a little bit more time to work on it. All right. Now, I've got a granddaughter who is very involved in soccer right now. The reason I'm telling you that is she has a game Friday night, she has a game Saturday morning or afternoon, and one Sunday. So other than that time, I'll be available if people do have questions. All right, but I do go and try to watch as many of her games as I possibly can. All right, so as it says here, all right, the completed chapter 12 homework and written tests were due now over a week ago. All right, if you haven't done them yet and you want to, you can turn them in and still get partial credit. Yesterday, if you remember, I went through and did from scratch the entire chapter 12 hands-on test. All right, you should have all gotten a copy of the URL for that. It's an unlisted video, so you need that URL. Today's video will not be unlisted. It'll be public. All right, but that is due by noon today. All right, I wanted to make sure people had enough time to work on things. Now, my guess is this won't take the entire period today, but it might. I want to do it slowly. And if I haven't said this semester, then I apologize. But if you have questions, you can break in. You can get in on your mic and ask. I don't have a problem with that at all. All right. Okay. The completed test then will be due now Sunday. And that's the same date that your homework is due. All right. Okay. So let's get started. First, let's take a look at the pretest itself. All right, here it is. Okay, and it's going to look like this. Now, let's see if I can find a page that doesn't have a listing like that on it. So, oh, come on. There we go. All right. So what's going to happen here when you look here is I've got right here, I put in a group box and it has two radio buttons in it. One if you're an hourly employee, one if you're a pieceworker employee. If you choose the hourly employee right there, then these two labels that are here and here by default don't have anything in them. But if you choose hourly employee, this label now says hours worked, and this label now says hourly rate. All right, so what we're going to create in here is I'm going to try to do it, and I'm going to do this part of it from scratch, and if it doesn't work, I've already got a working copy of this, so I'm not worried about it. But tomorrow you're expected to work with an interface. I guess I didn't realize that, so I'm going to show you how to do it. In fact, I even put on this tape I'm giving you for tomorrow, the code you have to put in for the interface. I'm giving you the code. All right, that's 5 points that you're getting for free. Now, so if you choose hourly employee, all employees have a first name, they all have a last name, they all have an employee number, and they all can be union members. But only hourly employees have hours worked and hourly rate. If you're a piece worker employee, did I put one of those in there? There you go. See now this changes to pieces made and price per piece. All right, so we're going to have in here, we are going to have one interface. Previously, I made this a class. I'm going to show it to you both ways. All right, but I want to show you an interface because there's one on the test tomorrow. And then we will make an hourly employee class and we'll make a piece worker employee class. So we'll do both of those. All right. We're using, just like they've done in the Muroc book. All right. We're using the same things for both hourly and piece worker. We're just changing it. We're changing the labels. And that's basically the same thing they did in the Muroc text. All right. Now, as you already saw, there were a lot of cases in here accounting for errors. Well, here, we didn't choose an employee type. All right, so you must choose one of those. It's not even going to go on and check this stuff. But if you put in a type and you don't put in a first name or a last name, okay, what does that mean? That means we're also going to have a validator class in here. All right, so here we put in a first name and a last name, but we didn't put in an employee number. All right, so we get a different error. Here, we put in everything, but we didn't put in an hours worked or an hourly rate. So you can see we're validating basically everything. The one thing we're not validating is union member, because what we're saying is with a checkbox, a person can be a union member or might not be a union member. All right. Also, this was an out of range here. So that's an out of range hours worked and an hour out of range hourly rate. All right. And the same thing for the piece worker being out of range. Okay. So we're going to go through all of this stuff right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you first, I'll make this as a class. Then I'll show you, all right, we shouldn't have to really make much of any changes to it to make it an interface. So I'm going to show you all of that. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to create a new folder. I'm doing everything from scratch here, and I'm going to call it CH14-16 pretest. It looks like I've already got one of those. All right, that's okay. So we'll call it chapter 14 and 16 pretest. I don't think I have one of those, and I don't. So there it is. That's where we're going to build everything right now. All right. So I think I might have this open already. So let me just close it. And I'm going to, like I said, I'm starting anew, as they say. All right. So let me start up Visual Studio. I'm going to create a new project. It will be a Windows Forms app. I'm going to call it, as you see here, we'll just call it the same kind of thing. So chapter 14 and 16 pretest. And I'll put the solution in with the same name. All right. And we're going to put that into our folder on the desktop that we just created here that is called chapter 14 and 16 pretest. All right. So basically, I think just about everything has got the same name on it. That won't hurt anything. All right. So create. All right. I'm not going to worry about my interface right now. Instead, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to build the class library. So we've got all of that stuff built for us. Then we'll go back and we'll create the interface. Probably by that time, it'll be time for a break. Probably. All right. And after the break, we'll put in the code to hopefully make everything work. And I will make sure that I put this out on my GitHub repository. It'll be out there later today. All right. So let's come in and right away, let's right mouse click on our solution. choose add, new project. This will be a class library. And I'm just going to call it employee library. We could call it, of course, whatever we want. All right, there that is. I don't want that class 1 class, so I'm going to get rid of it. I'm going to delete that, so it's now gone. All right, so basically I have nothing of value in there. So let's start adding things. So I'm going to come in here, and again, I want to show you. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to say add, and I'm going to say class, and I'm going to put in here employee.cs. And what this is going to be, all right, what this is going to be then is going to be our employee class. You've seen me do all this kind of stuff before, coming in here and doing that. Notice the namespace is employee library. That's good. That's what we want. And public, class employee. And I'll start out with my instance variables. Let me move this over a little bit. And this, so I've got plenty of room for coding. All right, there are going to be 3 instance variables in here. Okay, we're going to have a string, and we'll just use these. So first name, back, we'll make it private, because that's good practice. Private string first name, private string last name, and private string, not email. This is going to be emp num. It's the employee's number. All right, I could have said employee number, etc. This is just the way I did it. All right, so we've got that. Let's come in and let's do our constructor. It will be a full arg constructor. Now, I do believe that what I did, just so you know this, I do believe that what I did in the handout for the test is I made this thing an integer. I'm changing it to a string because there's really no reason to take an employee number and make it a numeric field. You could argue and say, well, if it only contains numbers, you really should do that. I'd argue and say, since I'm not doing any mathematical operations on it, I'm not going to do that. But we could just as easily, we could have gone in there and we could have made that an int, is what I'm telling you. All right, so you know this already. Now it's going to be public employee. And what's going to happen is, in many ways, I think the IntelliSense is going to start kicking in. So string first name, string last name, string empnum, and then we'll add them. Okay. Now, my hope is that when you all look at these, let's put these each on their own line, just so again, you can see everything that's going on. All right. My hope is that there's nothing in here that's a big surprise to anybody. All right. Now we'll set up getters and setters for each one of these. Okay. But for the first name and last name and employee number, right now, we're not going to do anything special. Okay. Could we? Of course we can. So what I'm saying is I'm going to put in here getters and setters. All right. And I'm just going to keep these simple. So I'm going to say string, first name, and I'm going to put in here get and set, just like that. And I'm going to do the same thing for last name, and I'll make those public. That's probably a good idea. I'm glad I thought of that. All right. So I'll make this public as well. Okay. So there's my getters and setters. What this says, by just saying get and set in there, this is the exact same thing as if I did this, as if I said public string first name get return underscore first name set. All right, first name equal value. So this one line, you can see it's giving me an error because I've done it twice. This one line replaces all of this. In fact, I'll take this and just comment it out. So why would you want to do it this way? If I wanted to go in and do some validation work, let's say, on the setter, then I'd want to do it this way. I'm not doing any extra work, so it's totally permissible to do it like this and like this and like this. It's totally fine to do that. All right. I'm going to add one method in here. Whoops. Okay. And I'm going to make it virtual. By now, hopefully you understand what virtual means. And virtual means that it can be overridden. Really, if you're going to make something virtual, you are going to override it. All right. We talked about in the past the difference between overriding and overloading. All right. And I could just use to string, but let's do it the way they did it in the book, where they have like a display text. Okay. All right. And you'll notice right now I'm getting an error because I'm not returning anything and it's expecting the string. So I'm going to return name. Oops. Try that again. Plus the first name plus a blank space and name plus the last name. All right. Plus another blank space. Okay. So I've got name and I'll have first name followed by last name. All right. And a blank space. This right here, don't have to, but I'll put it on a new line like this. And before the employee number, all right, all I'm going to put here is just a little heading that says employee number with a space plus, no, whoops. Okay. Now that should be pretty simple. In other words, if I were to come in here and do something like this, if I came in here and put in Jeff Scott 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then all it's going to end up doing is putting that in. Jeff Scott 1, 2, 3, employee, name Jeff space Scott, employee number space 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. Hopefully that all made sense. Now, I mentioned that what we're going to be doing tomorrow on the test is you're going to be making this an interface. And you're going to be making it an interface instead of a class. We're going to change two things to make it an interface, just to show you. Number one, I'm going to change the word class to the word interface. You can see. All right. Now, it doesn't like this. And it says interfaces cannot contain instance fields. All right. So we'd have to make some changes to that. What do I mean? Let me show you real quick. All right. Let's see. This is what I've given you tomorrow. All right. That's going to be in, I made it an abstract class. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it up to you. You can either make it a class, but make it abstract, or you can make it an interface. Let's do this and let's make it an abstract class. What does that mean? If a class is abstract, it can't be instantiated. So we'll make this back and we'll make this a class. All right, but I'm going to put the word abstract here. And what that means is if I were to come in here and try to instantiate an employee object, I'd get an error because you cannot instantiate abstract classes and make them into objects. It's not allowed. The language does not allow you to do that. All right. And hopefully at least what I just said made sense. All right. And if it didn't, you'll ask either now or you'll ask if you got an email, you email me or whatever. So all I did was I put the word abstract here. Okay. All right. So file, save all. That's our employee class right there. All right. The next thing I want to add in here is I've got two types of employees. I've got an hourly employee and I've got a pieceworker employee. And both the hourly employee and the pieceworker employee, both of them are going to inherit, or each of them will inherit from employee. I'll leave this up, but I'm going to come in here, right mouse click, choose add, and choose class. And let's start with the hourly employee.cs. There it is. Again, I'm going to get rid of all this. And an hourly employee is a type of employee. And you can see the IntelliSense already picked it up. All right, it's giving me that error because I have to change this back to public. All right. Now, the reason I still have an error here is because remember that we said inside of the employee thing, we need to have this. All right. We need some stuff. We need to add some stuff. We haven't added it yet. So really, as soon as we come in here and we add our constructor, that error will go away. Just take my word for it. Just watch. So what are the instance variables for an hourly employee? There's two of them. All right. There'll be a decimal for hours worked. We'll just keep doing it the way we have been doing it. For hours worked. All right. And there will be a decimal for hourly rate. All right. Those are our two instance variables. So let's do our full arg constructor. So remember that when we do this full arg constructor, there's actually 5 things we have to put in here. So public, hourly, employee, and we'll start with a string for the first name. All right, then we will add to that a string for the last name. Then we will add to that a string for the employee number. And then we'll add our 2 new ones, a decimal for the hours worked and a decimal for the hourly rate. Now, hopefully by now, with what I'm about to say, it makes sense to you. We're getting an error for 2 reasons. First, we have to go in here and we have to say our colon base. All right, remember, that means that this is what the parent's going to handle. It's going to handle the first name, it's going to handle the last name, and it's going to handle the employee number. All right, now as soon as I put that in, hit enter, put in my curly braces, now my error is gone from here. All right, so remember what we're doing here is hourly employee is a child or a subclass or a derived class that inherits from employee, which we created earlier. So that's the base class or the parent class or the superclass. In addition to first name, last name, and employee number, all hourly employees have an hours worked. All hourly employees have an hourly rate. All right, they all have that stuff. Okay. So we have to come in here and all we have to handle here, okay, is just hours worked equal on, hours worked. So hours worked equals hours worked and hourly rate equals hourly rate. That's all we have to put in there. All right. So we can put in getters and setters for these as well. All right. So again, we can just come in and say decimal We don't have to do that, I'm sorry. What am I doing here? Okay, we want to do them just like we did them here. Okay, so public string, etc. All right. So public string. Now, we don't need the first name. We don't need the last name. We don't need the employee number. So just a public decimal, hours worked, with a get and a set. All right. And public hourly rate with a get and a set. All right. We're getting there. We're not done yet, but we're getting there. All right. So the only thing that we have to add to this is we now want to override our display text. So I'm going to say public override string, and that was that display text. All right, and we do want to return base.display text, but then we want to add to that, so plus, and we'll put here hours worked, plus hours worked, dot toString, and we'll put that to 2 decimal places. You don't have to, but we will, plus hourly rate plus hourly rate dot toString, and that's a number with dollars and cents, so we'll make that currency. All right, that is everything now. That is everything in our hourly worker or hourly employee class. All right, so we've done so far, we've done employee, and now we've done hourly employee. And as far as I can tell so far, it's not giving me any errors, which is always a good sign. All right, so let's do a file, save all. Okay, and now I'm going to add the next one. So to our employee library, we're going to add another class. And this one will be pieceworker employee. All right, so again, that is our third class that we're adding to our library. And it's going to be very, very similar to what we just did for hourly employee, but I'm not going to copy that over. It's too easy to screw it up. So I'm going to say here, public class pieceworker inherits from employee. And I immediately get that same error we had before. Okay. And I'm getting that because we haven't added the other stuff yet. We haven't added the constructor, etc. We'll do that in a second. So, and we'll do our instance variables first. All right, and then we'll have an int, and we'll call this pieces. So that's the number of pieces that you made. All right, and sorry, try that again. Private int underscore pieces. All right, and then we're going to have a private decimal, and we're going to call this price per piece. Again, these are just the names I use. They were very arbitrary as far as what I picked. All right. Then we'll have again our full arg constructor. So public pieceworker employee, and each piece worker will have a string for the first name. They will have a string for the last name. They will have a string for the employee number. All right, and then our colon base, and we will have a decimal. All right, I'm sorry. And that will be all these. So first first name, last name, and empnum. Now, did I miss something? Yes, because remember, these employees also have an int for pieces and a decimal for price per piece. All right. So now when I come in there and I hit this and I put in my curlies, again, now the error is gone. All right. We'll let the IntelliSense fill in these two fields for us. Okay. So far we've come in, we created an abstract class, meaning it can't be instantiated, called employee. And we said all employees have 3 pieces of information, regardless of the type of employee that they are. All employees, all right, they all have a first name, a last name, and an employee number. All right. In addition, then we went in and we created an hourly employee who also has a decimal field called hours worked and a decimal field called hourly rate. Now in here, we're doing our piece worker employee, who again has a first name, last name, and employee number that they inherit from employee, but they also have an integer variable. This is the number of pieces that they made, and this is the price they're getting per piece. All right. Okay, finally, and I'm just going to steal this one. I want to override the toString method again. So I'm going to put that down here. And of course, I don't want hours worked and hourly rate. I want pieces made. And this will be price per piece. And which means that this will be pieces. All right, so pieces dot toString, and it's an integer. All right, now it's giving me an error. We'll fix that in just a moment. All right, because I forgot something, but we'll put it in. And this will be price per piece. All right, hopefully you noticed that I'm getting errors here, and I'm getting errors because I forgot to put in my getters and setters. So let's do that here. All right, just like we did before. So I'm going to say public int pieces, whoops, PIECES with a get and a set. And public decimal price per piece with a get and a set. I don't remember, none of those have semicolons on the end. No, I didn't think they did. So it doesn't like something. Oh, I forgot my colon, semicolon. There. So notice again, I'm down to no errors. Okay, you are going to create something similar to this tomorrow. I would recommend you create an abstract class and then 2 classes under it. I'll have to modify the test page. So it says you can either use an interface or you can use an abstract class. All right, so now we've got all that done. In other words, we have 3 classes that we've got in here: an employee, an hourly employee, and a piece worker employee. So those are all in there. I'm going to make this bigger. I don't know if it needs to be that big, but I'm going to do a file, save all. All right, and I'm just going to change the name of the form so I can close my employee library. And my employee library, again, now has in it employee, hourly employee, and piece worker. I want to build the interface next. Okay, I remember I still have to create that validator class. We'll do that in just a bit. All right, but let's create, or at least start to create the interface. All right, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to change the name of the form. And of course, we can call that whatever we want. So FRM, I'm going to call it just FRM 1416 pretest. Okay. All right. And because I think that it comes out best out of all the colors that are in here, I'm going to make that yellow. All right. Okay, so this is going to be my interface. So the first thing I'm going to put in here, I'm going to come in here and I want to view my toolbox. Okay. I want to come in here and put in a, it's probably wider than it has to be. That's probably better. Okay. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put in a group box right here. That group box that I'm about to put in, that's right here, is going to hold the two radio buttons. One radio button for an hourly employee, one radio button for a pieceworker employee. Okay, so let's add the two radio buttons. There's one. There's the other. I'm going to make these nice and big. All right. Probably bigger than I make the text for everything else, but let's see. When we come in here, I usually make them 20. I'm going to try making these 28 and see if that's too big or not. All right, that's pretty good, actually. Okay, and this first one is going to be for an hourly employee. So I'm going to call this rad hourly. All right, and I'll put in here for the text hourly employee. All right, and this one will be called rad pieceworker. And it'll say pieceworker employee. That might be a little bit too small to hold all that, but we'll see. And you can see that it is. So let me just stretch this out. All right, so there's the beginning of this. Next, I'm going to go in and add two labels. And this first one will be for the first name. Okay. And then I'll have another one immediately that I do for the last name. Oops. You know. So we'll have the first name there. We'll have the last name there. Okay. And I need my two text boxes, one for first name, one for last name. Okay, we've got those. Then I'm going to go in and make a checkbox. All right, and that's going to be for a union member, and I'll put that over here. And then I'll have another thing over here for employee number. All right, so let's immediately just grab these two, copy and paste, because that's going to be my employee number in just a moment. All right, and in here, like I said, I'm going to come in and I'm going to add a checkbox. Really didn't need to do this, but we haven't done too much with checkboxes in here. All right, so I decided to go ahead and add that. All right, so with this, I think I'm going to make it nice and big, pretty much like this. Well, we'll just try it at 20 to start with and see if that works. That's better. Okay, and that's going to be, like I said, that will be for our whether the person's a union member or not. Then down here, I'm going to need a label, a text box, a label, and a text box. All right, so I'm just going to grab these, paste them, put them down here. All right, finally, and I want to make this a little bigger at the bottom. This is where I'm going to put my output will be down at the bottom here. So I made this a big text box, multi-line. All right, and I have to make it multi-line, of course. Move this down now. And I'll have 3 buttons down at the bottom. The calculate, clear, and exit, as we've been doing virtually all semester. All right, so there's my interface. Let's go in, and I don't actually want to change this, but I do want to change the size of all these. Okay. All right, so all those are done now. Looks like I've got a few things that aren't totally lined up, etc., but it's, like I said, it sure isn't terrible either. All right. All right, so let's fill this in quickly. We've got this already. We've got hourly employee. Let's change the name of our group box. We'll call this GB for, or you can call it GRP, but I call mine GB for group box. And I'm going to put in here employee type. All right. And then for the text in there, I'm also going to put in employee type. Okay. All right. Now we want, in fact, let's do this. Let's lock this. All right. This, grab all these. And I'm going to align them in the center. All right, I'm going to grab these. Not that one. And I'm going to center those as well. Okay. All right. All right, so this first one is going to say first name. Probably already guessed this, so it'll be LBL first name with the text first name. This will be TXT first name. This will be LBL last name. The text last name. This will be TXT last name. All right, this checkbox, again, I call mine usually CB, but you can call it basically anything. So I'm going to change it to CB Union. We'll call it Union Member, because that's the text I want to put in there, is Union Member. And I'm going to make this the same color, the background color as the rest of those. So you don't have to do that. But, you know, like I said, I'm just want stuff to stick out, and I want you to be able to see what I'm doing here. So this will be employee number. So it'll be LBL employee number. Again, that's probably not wide enough, so I'll put employee in there with a number sign. Like that. This will be TXT employee number. All right. This is going to hold something. All right, I'm giving this a name, but I don't want any text here, and I don't want any text here. All right. So I'm just going to call this, I mean, I could even leave them just in there as label if I wanted to, but I don't really like that. I'm I'm just going to call this LBL number 1, and it'll have no text in it, which means I'll call this TXT number 1. And I'll call this LBL number 2. With, again, no text in it. Oops, oh, I renamed the wrong one, so let's fix that. That'll be TXT number 2. And this is LBL number 2 with no text in it. Okay, this will be our results, so I'm going to call it that. So it'll be TXT results. All right, and let's see what's left. Well, we got these buttons, so. To my knowledge, and I could be wrong here, but I don't think I am. I think that to my knowledge, that right now, basically, the interface is done. All right, let's see if I forgot to rename anything. I know that this calling stuff number 1 and number 2 looks a little funky, but as far as I can tell, everything's been renamed. All right, as always, I'm going to set my accept button, and that is on the test again tomorrow. So that's to calculate, and I'll set the cancel button to clear. All right, I will set my start position to center screen. And let's just, for the text, let's just put in here chapters 14 and 16 pretest. Okay, so that's done. All right, and let's set our tab order. Then we're going to go back and add that validator class, which I didn't add before. So this is going to be number 1. So this will be like, or 0 rather, this will be like 0.1 and 0.2. Then here and here, then here and here, then here and here. Then our 3 buttons, then this, then all of our labels. If I did that too fast, then just kind of watch if you would. So view, tab order, and again, it'll be, okay. Oh, I screwed up. Okay, let me do it again. All right, so this is going to end up being 0. So it'll be 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then we've got left this and this, and we've got this and this and this. That's everything. All right, view tab order. All right, so that's all done. In a couple minutes, we're going to do our calculate, and we're going to do our clear, and we're going to do our exit. We'll do those in just a bit, but before I do those, let me go in and add a validator class. All right, I should have done that earlier, didn't, but it's totally fine. And you can, of course, always do these in any order you want. So into my employee library, I could add another library in here. And it might actually be a better thing and just call it validation, but I'm going to put everything in here. Okay. Tomorrow you're going to be doing the same thing, and it's up to you. You can make 2 libraries or put everything into your library, into the one library. Either way is fine. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to add a class. As always, it will be called validator.cs. All right, I'm going to go look for that in here because this is just stuff that we've been using pretty much all semester in here. So there is an is present. There's an is in 32, an is decimal. I don't need an is operator, but I'm just going to copy all this in and then remove what I don't need. All right, remember that what I'm doing in here is I have to come in here now and change all these to public. So this will be public static is present. That's fine. I don't even know if I need an is in 32. I don't think I have anything that's an int. I do pieces. So public static int is 32. Another public here. Static is decimal. I'm not using an is operator, so I can just remove that one. And one more public. That's within range. Now, that's static, that's static, that's static, and that one now is static. So I now have in here all of my classes, I believe. So file, save all. All right, so I'm going to get rid, or not get rid of, close the validator class. All right. So for the exit, I'm again going to come back in here and I'm going to grab, it's kind of the way we've been doing it. So I'm going to come in here and grab the exit program or not, right there. And for the form, this will again be a clear form. So let's see what we have to clear. All right. Well, do we want any of these to be selected? That's going to be up to us. But I'm going to have neither of them being selected. All right. So this won't be selected. It'll look like it does now. In fact, everything should pretty much look like it does now, except, in fact, we're going to have everything. We're going to clear out everything. So we'll clear out these 2 radio buttons. We'll clear out the 1, 2, these 2 text boxes. We'll clear out the checkbox. We'll clear out that text box. We'll clear out these 2 text boxes and this text box. That's pretty much everything. So that should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 things, if I counted right. So let's just take it from the top here. TXT, in fact, RDO first. So rad hourly.enabled is false. Rad pieceworker.enabled is false. TXT first name.text is equal to nothing. TXT last name.text is equal to nothing. All right, what was next? Union member and employee number. So CB for checkbox, union member enabled is false. TXT employee number dot enabled is false. All right, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What we call TXT number 1 dot text will have nothing in it. TXT number 2 dot text will have nothing in it. And finally, TXT results dot text will have nothing in it. And we'll say TXT, I'm sorry, we won't give anything the focus. Just do it like that. All right, because you know how squirrely I am about stuff like this. I'm just going to line it up so I can see everything. And again, there should be, I'm just going to leave it. There should be like 9 things in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, let's run it and see if so far it works. So I can choose either one of these. Looks like I've got one chosen. I'm not sure why, but that's okay. This will be read only. So I'm going to make it read only in a minute. All right, clear. All right, everything looks like it cleared, except I didn't clear the employee number for some reason. So let's check that. TXT employee number, that should be .text, not .enabled. And that's equal to nothing. Okay, all right, so that everything, as far as I can tell, right now then, everything in here should be working. And our exit button looks like, at least, looks like it's working as well. All right, okay. It is 9 o'clock. So rather than spending 5 or 10 minutes writing some text, okay, let's take a break. And when we come back from the break, I'm going to give you 15 minutes. And when we come back from the break, I do want to show you another reason that you might want to have an interface. So I think I'll add one in here. It's not at all mandatory, but I think I'm going to do it just to show it to you. I have my choice. I'm going to have some constants, the same kind we've had before: minimum hours, minimum rate, maximum rate, etc. I can either declare them right in here, or I can make them public and put them in an interface. And I think I'm going to do that. All right, but we'll see. So let's take a break. Come back, please, at 9:15. All right, I'll be back in just a couple moments. All right, as you can see, it is 9:15, so I'm going to continue on. And I was thinking about this. Now, I could come in here and I was going to create an interface that was called iGlobals and put all the constants in there, or iConstants. And then I was going to have all three of the classes, the employee class, the hourly employee class, and the pieceworker class, those three at least, implement that by just adding a comma after the word employee, where it says :employee, comma, I constant. The problem is I really don't have to do that because I'm not really using them in the classes themselves. So I'm just going to put my variables in here. All right, I do need a comment in here, and I was too foolish to remember to do that before I started. So, but I'll put that comment in later. All right, so I'm going to come in here, and as always, I'm going to declare and initialize the program constants. And like I said, there's about 12 of them. So I'm going to separate them into 3 different types. All right, if you say I don't know what you mean, then please just watch. So const int, in fact, when I did this, I said the minimum employee number you could have was 1,000 and the maximum was 99.99. But since we made that a string, we won't even have those. So I'll have 10 constants. So const decimal min hours, you've seen all these before, equals 0.00 m, const decimal, what doesn't it like here? A namespace cannot directly, oh, that's got to be down, sorry. There we go. All right, then const decimal max hours. So we're saying, as always, that an employee can work between 0 and 84 hours a week. All right, nothing new there. Const decimal min hourly rate, that'll be 0 as well. And a const decimal, I forgot the M, but we'll put it back, max hourly rate, and that'll be 99.99 M. Again, those are all arbitrary just values that I came up with. We've been using things like that basically for the entire semester. All right. And const decimal max non-OT, and that's going to be equal to 40. That's the most now, the most hours you can work without getting any overtime, and we're going to make our overtime rate add 1.5 M, so time and a half. All right, again, not really anything new there. I mean, this is all stuff that we've done. All right, but I'm also going to add just a blank space there. Why? So I can put here const int min pieces, and that's going to be 0. That's, you don't make anything. Const int max pieces, and I'm going to set that to 100. I'm going to suppose that whatever it is that we're trying to make here, that you can, you don't have to make any, but the most you can make in an hour is 100. So const decimal min EPP, price per piece, and that'll be 0.00 M, and the const decimal max PPP, and that'll be equal to 1.00 M. So in English, what we've said here for these I don't think we have to talk about because we have already, but these, you can make between 0 and 100 pieces per hour. You can make between nothing for a piece and $1 for each piece. Okay, so if you made 100 pieces and each was worth $1, you'd make $100 in that hour. All right. Now, just so you see this, okay, really what we want to do is we want to be able to calculate the gross pay for each and every employee type that we have. So that's going to be our one. I think that's the only one I put in there for a global variable or a class variable. So declare and initialize class variable. So I said decimal gross pay, and that's equal to 0.00 M. All right, so those right there are our constants and our one global variable. All right, now we've already gone in. And we've written the methods, the code, whatever you want to call it, for our clear button and for our exit button. So I'm not going to worry about those. I'm not going to say another word about those. But what we have to do, of course, is this one right here, and that is to work with our calculate button. All right. So a lot of ways that we can do this. All right. But the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to create a variable in here. And I'm looking at my code that I have, and I did bring in, I do use the validator class. Good. I wanted to make sure I did, because otherwise I wasn't going to even include it in there. So I'm going to have a Boolean variable that's called success, and we'll use that later. You've already seen this kind of thing. And we'll even set it was, we don't need to set it. I'll just leave it like that. Okay. Now what I want to say is when you start to run the program, if neither one of these are chosen, there's no sense in going on because you don't have any idea what kind of employee it is anyway. So I'm going to have my bool keep going, and I'm going to set that equal to, and I'm going to call all of these validate something. So validate radio button chosen. Long name, but it is pretty self-describing. All right, or self-documenting. Okay, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to say private bool validate radio button closing. And I'm going to say here is if not rad hourly dot checked, and notice the IntelliSense has already picked it up. All right, there's only 2 radio buttons in here. So this is saying in English, if neither one of these are checked, and if neither one is checked, there's really no sense in going on. So what I'll do is I'll call my show error message, and I'll say you must choose an employee type. All right, and we'll put in here for our title, no employee type chosen. And you already know this. There's a lot of ways we could handle this. Okay, so let's see. Doesn't like something. Did I not bring in show error message? I did not, so let's bring that in. You know as well as I do that that's right down here. It's right after our exit program or not. There it is, so that error should now be gone, and it is. All right, so if neither one is chosen, all I want to do here is return false. All right, and otherwise I can say return true. Or, because we've done this many times before, I can say bool retval equal true. And here I'll just say retval equal false and return retval. Now, I've mentioned this to you before. All right. I've mentioned this to you before, and that is the advantage of doing this is if there ends up eventually being a lot of other code in here, let's just say there is, we only have one place where we're returning something. We could be setting it in multiple places, but there's only one place where we're returning it. So if for some reason it's not being returned correctly, all right, then we know basically, all right, if that's the case, if it's not being returned, correctly, we've only got one place to go look for it. So let's check that out. I'm not going to choose either one of these. Oh, and one is chosen already. I don't know why. So I'm not going to be able to test that. So let's see. Probably, I'm not sure, but let's go back to our design mode here. I mean, we don't even need that. We don't even need that in there, period, if we do have one of them chosen all the time. All right, so let's see, did I make checked true here? Red hourly. Visual, I thought there was a checked property in here. Checked, it says false. And then that one should be false as well. And that's false. So let's see. Trying to figure out why that's coming up. And see, when you run the program, that's checked, and I don't know why. All right, so I can't not check anything. So let me check it this way. All right, I'll come in here, and when we run our load event, I'm just going to say rad hourly dot checked equal false and rad pieceworker dot checked equal false, just to see if I can test this. And it's still checked. Well, I don't know what the problem is, but the code is right. All right. In other words, if that's not checked and that's not checked, we should get an error message. We'll look at that in a bit. How's that? All right. So we come back to here, and if keep going, that means that one of them was checked. All right. Then we want to say keep going. Well, what do we want to do next? All right. Well, we have to validate a bunch of fields. Okay. But what I'd rather do here is I'd rather validate all the fields that are in common. In other words, I validated this, but every employee has this, and every employee has this, and every employee has this. So I could say right now, validate first name, then I could say validate, have a routine called validate last name, then have one called validate employee number. We could do that. All right, but I chose instead to do it like this. So I said, keep going equal validate common fields. Maybe not the greatest name, but it's the one I used. All right. So down here, private bool. And again, this will be my validate common fields in here. All right. All right. So in here, I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to basically use a bool success equal true. string error message, this should look familiar to you, equals nothing. And now I'm going to run the things from my validator, but I'm going to get an error until I come in and right mouse click on here, choose add, choose reference, and make a reference to my, oh, what the heck is here? Chapter. Okay. Oh, I'm already in the library. So in here, I want to add a reference and I want to add it to my employee library. All right, now I should be able to come up to the top here and say using employee library. Okay, it's gray. It won't be in just a moment as soon as we start putting this stuff in here. So error message plus equal validator dot, notice it sees the is present. And what do we want in here? TXT first name dot text, first name. And let's do this, move that over, there we go. Okay, so we want to see if what's present is all three of these fields. All right, in other words, TXT first name, TXT last name, and TXT employee number. I think we called it employee number. There we go. All right, so that's going to check for the presence or the absence of that. Okay, so that's validating those fields. And as we've done previously, if error message is not equal to this, that means there was, again, some kind of an error in there. So what do we want to do? We want to say success equal false. We want to call our show error message. And we'll say error message. And we will put in there for our heading, just something like, I don't know, error or errors in input. All right. And we'll return success. All right. So now we should be able to come in here, run this. And notice now that's checked already, but if I click calculate, first name is a required field, last name is a required field, employee number is a required field. I did that just to validate with you, no pun intended, that it is calling the isPresent method from the validator class, which is in our class library. So the linkage between our program and the class library is working. And that's good because that's what we'd want to have happen. All right. Right now, if we do come in and just put in, it doesn't matter if I say that this is a union member or not. It doesn't really matter. So let's see. No, I don't want to. I'll just check it. But if I put in here 2 and I click calculate, nothing happens. It's doing what we've asked it to do, is what I'm telling you. All right. Okay. So we've got all that. So we came up here and we said validate common fields. All right, if we need an else in here with a return in it, because if validate radio buttons came back false, we don't want to go on. All right, so else return. So we've got that done. Okay, so far we've gone in and we have validated. Okay, we have validated that there's something in here, in here, in here, and in here. This one is kind of a wild card that since it's a checkbox, it can be chosen or it might not be chosen. Either way, it's okay. All right. But now what I want to do is I want to come back in here now. I want to come back in here. All right. And now I have to figure out, okay, it's an hourly employee. So I want this to say hours worked and hourly rate. And then I want to be able to validate these two values. And if it's a piece worker employee, I want this to say pieces and price per piece. And I want to validate these values. All right. And that's the main thing I have to do yet, because when I get done with that, then I just want to print all that stuff out in here. All right. Okay. So let's jump back into the code. All right. So we got in here, let's see. Validate common fields. Okay, so we've got all that stuff. That's good. All right. So if keep going. All right. Now, I typically have been doing it like this. I say if keep going, do something, right? But I want to do two things here. If keep going and, all right, I'm going to say rad hourly, okay, dot checked. So if both those are true, that means it validated and it's an hourly employee. All right, so if that's the case, what I want to do then, all right, is I want to come in and basically set everything up. But now think about what else I have to do in here. Okay, I have to fill in those two labels. Okay, so I can do that right here. I could, that's totally fine if I want to, or it's probably cleaner. All right, let's just call this set up hourly employee. Maybe not the greatest name, but it's the one I'm going to use here. All right, and we'll write set up hourly employee right underneath here. All right, and what do I want to do? Well, first thing I want to do is I want to say LBL number one dot text equals, and it should say hours worked, and LBL number two dot text equals hourly rate. Let's see if those work. All right. So file, save all. All right. It already says hourly, so I'm just going to put anything in here. I'll just put me in here. Again, it doesn't matter if that's checked or not, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I click calculate, there those are. All right. That's good. Okay. Like I said, I'm trying to do this fairly deliberately. Hopefully you can tell what I'm saying. So let's see. So if that, now I'm going to change this to, no, not there. Right, this setup hourly employee, I'm going to say else if, okay, keep going and rad piece worker checked. Okay, if that's the case, then I want to set up piece worker employee. All right, we're going to do that in just a second, but before I do, it should always be one of these or the other, but just in case, I'm going to say else, just to kind of protect myself, just return. All right, so let's write this one now. We'll write it right below the other one. All right, so write it right here. All right, now it'll be LBL number one dot text is going to be equal to pieces. I could say pieces or pieces made. It doesn't matter. I'll say pieces made. All right, and LBL number two dot text, and that's equal to price per piece. And let's see if that one works. You've already seen this, that if I come in here and leave it at hourly and put anything in here, I get those two. That's exactly what I'd want. I can clear. That's good. I should be clearing these two, and I'm not right now. So that's something I got to fix in a moment. But if I change that to piece worker, that might be the problem. Right now, I can't change this. All right, so I'll have to look at that in just a bit. All right. So when I'm clearing, I should also come in here and say LBL number one dot text is equal to nothing, and LBL number two dot text is equal to nothing. You can see I previously did the text boxes, but I never did the labels that go with them. All right, I'm trying to figure out, just looking at this quickly, it's not recognizing. I mean, there's something that's screwed up in here, so we'll have to fix that. I don't know right now what it is. Probably is simple, and that's why I don't know what it is. All right. So well, there's more things that we want to do when we're setting up an hourly employee other than just do this. And that should make sense. All right. What do we have to do? Well, if it's an hourly employee, we have to validate the hours worked and the hourly rate. And if it's a piece worker employee, we have to validate the pieces made, and we have to validate the price per piece. All right. So after we do this, we can do this in a lot of different ways. All right. But let's do this. I'll make another success variable here. All right. And I'm going to come in here and say, let's see. Success equals. All right. And what we'll do here is we're going to validate hourly. We'll validate hours worked and hourly rate. All right. So let's validate those. Come right down and do that down here. All right. And we can do this in a very similar way that we did this. Okay, so I'm just going to copy all that, but we're going to make changes, of course, but just so you see it. So what do we want to do? Well, we really and truly, we might as well do an is present, right? We might as well. And we're going to do this both for hours worked and for hourly rate. So validator is present, txt, hours worked, dot text. Isn't that what we call that? No, we just call it txt number one and txt number two. Okay, so txt number one dot text, and that'll be hours worked. And we want to make sure that it is decimal. All right, and again, it'll be this, and it's all of this. And finally, we want to make sure that it's is within range. I'm going to get an error on this, but we'll fix it in a minute. All right. It's looking for the min and the max in here. And you already know we've got those because we put in a min hours. Nope, not hourly rate, hours. And we put in a max hours. All right. So now that's doing the validation in that text box. And let's just copy this and bring that down here. And now we'll change this to number two. And this is the hourly rate. All right, and this will be min hourly rate, max hourly rate. And again, if we had errors, we'll say that there were errors. Okay, so that should do everything in there. And that's going to either return true or return false. Okay, so we said here success equals this. All right, and if it was successful, all right, then we should be able to do everything we want to do. In other words, we've now validated everything that's in there. So if it's true, so if success, all right, now we should actually be able to go in and, I don't know, I guess instantiate our object. All right, so we'll put in here, create hourly employee object, okay, which of course hasn't been written yet. So we'll put it down below here. Now we're only doing this if it was successful. All right, so we validated both of those. And if it returns success, we're now able to come in here and start doing what it is we want to do. And what is that? Well, okay, we've got what in here? We want to create a new employee object, hourly employee object. Now, I'm not going to do this, but if I typed in here right now, hourly employee, it was just called HE for hourly employee. If I said equals new hourly employee, notice that once we do this, the IntelliSense is going to kick in here and it tells us what we need. We need a first name, we need a last name, we need an employee number. We already have those. They're in the text boxes. We also need an hours worked and an hourly rate. We don't have those yet. You can say, yes, we do. They're in the text boxes, but we have to convert them. So we have to come in here and say, all right, decimal hours worked equal convert dot to decimal txt. Sorry, it's txt number one dot text dot trim. All right, and decimal hourly rate is going to be equal to convert dot to decimal txt number two dot text dot trim. And again, my hope is that we've done this enough that what we're doing at least somewhat makes sense to people. All right, so now I can actually instantiate the hourly employee object. All right, okay, so what do we have in here? We need to put in txt first name dot text. I'm just going to put each one on its own line. txt last name dot text. All right. txt employee number dot text. And then hours worked. Okay. And hourly rate. And you'll notice when you look here, there are no errors. That's good. All right. So we have now gone in and we have instantiated that information. Okay. Well, what's left? Okay, what's left? Well, we have to figure out that employee's gross pay, don't we? All right. So I'm going to say here, gross pay is equal to, we'll call it calculate hourly employee, so HE, gross pay. Okay. And we'll again put that right down below here. It's going to have to return a decimal because we're sticking it into gross pay. Right? Now we created that object up here. All right. So in here, if I try working with HE, it's not going to know what we're talking about. So I think I should be able to come in and pass the object in right here. So HE. All right. And in here, I'll have to say what it is. And it is an hourly employee, HE. All right. All right. Why did I do that? Just so we're able to work with that information. All right. So there's different ways that we can do this, of course. All right. And I'm going to show you the one that I'm going to use here. And I'm going to say this. If HE dot get, doesn't like that. So let's see. What I want is I want to come in here and I want to check and see if they worked any overtime or not. And if they worked overtime, I want to put all that stuff in. And if they didn't, okay, I won't want to put it in. So hold on just a sec. Let's see. Because I've totally rewritten this from what I have on my other computer because I like what I'm doing now better. All right. So let's see. Well, actually, I don't even need the object here. All I really need to bring in is the hours worked and the hourly rate. This is a cleaner way of doing it anyway. So decimal, hours worked, decimal, hourly rate. All right. So if the hours worked is less than or equal to max non-OT, you've seen all this kind of stuff before. All right. What does that mean? That means employee worked no overtime. All right. So if that's the case, the gross pay is equal to hours worked times hourly rate. Pretty simple. All right. Else, what does that mean? Else they worked overtime. Now, one weird thing I've never been able to understand about this editor here is notice when I come in here, watch what happens if I hit tab. See, it doesn't like a tab right there. I don't know why. I can come in and manually do this, but there's things about this editor that I've never really understood. So employee worked some overtime. So we have to figure out what. So the gross pay is equal to max non-OT. So this is their straight time, max non-OT times the hourly rate. And I want to add to that the hours worked minus max non-OT times the hourly rate times the overtime rate. All right. And then finally, all I've got left to do then is to return gross pay. Okay. All right. So let's see. Okay. Then I come back to here. So all I've done so far, all I've been doing is working with my hourly employee. All right. So I've set the labels. I validated that the hours worked was correct and that the hourly rate was correct. They were both within range and numeric. If all that stuff happened, we're coming in and we're instantiating an hourly employee object, and we're figuring out his or her gross pay. All right. So now TXT results equal, well, the first thing that we can put in here is we can let them know what kind of employee this is. So I'm going to say hourly employee statistics. And we could put anything in the world we wanted to put in there, of course. And of course, that's got to be .text. That's why it's giving me the errors. So .text equals that. All right. And we want that. But I think we want more than that, because otherwise all it's going to say is hourly employee statistics. Okay. So we want that plus \r\n plus, now I can say HE, hourly employee, dot display text. Okay, don't worry, I need paren there. But so what's that going to do? Okay, that should give me my employee's first name, my employee's last name, and my employee number. It's grabbing those from the hourly that we did before. But there's still a little bit more we have to do. All right, so let's put another plus in here. \r\n. And now I'm going to put in here union. Oops, try that again. Union status. All right, which of course you already know this is going to be true or false, checked or not checked. All right, so I can just put in here plus CB for checkbox union member dot checked. So it's going to say true or it's going to say false. All right. Now, plus, I'm still not done yet, but I'm almost there. Why? Because I need the gross pay, which we just figured out. All right. Hopefully we can test this. Let's check. And let's check first and see if we put everything in that works. So hourly employee, say that I am. Like I said, oh, crud, this isn't working. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm not going to be able to test it. So let's see if I click calculate. Okay, it's doing that, and that's okay. So let's say 40 hours and 10. Calculate. Okay, I do have it all in here. Okay, so don't worry that the stuff isn't being set. The union status is, and the gross pay is correct. All right, but there's something hosed with this, and I got to figure out what the heck it is. But that's pretty good. All right, and it looks like I need another blank line here. All right, but I can't check that one, or I guess I can. Well, what if I do that and click calculate? Says you must choose an employee type. So notice it's not recognizing that. I don't know why. We'll look at it in just a second. All right, clear works. That's good. And the program is actually much closer to being done than you probably think. All right, so we've come in here, and for an hourly employee, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to grab this thing where we if success, create hourly employee object. Yeah, we've got all that stuff in there. I want to put all my hourly stuff together, and then I want to put in all of my piece worker stuff together. So here we've got set up piece worker employee. All right, so there's validate radio button, validate common fields, set up hourly employee, set up piece worker employee. All right, so I'm going to move this one down. All right, and I'm going to put it, so we've got here, validate hours worked and hourly rate, create hourly employee object. That's all good. Calculate the gross pay. That's all great. All right, then down here, I'm basically, for lack of better words, thought I copied it all, and I guess I didn't, but we want to do the same thing, but instead of doing it with an hourly employee, let me get rid of that, it was stupid. I want to do it for a piece worker employee. All right, so this, we haven't written this, or else I removed it. Yeah, the setup piece worker employee. So let's come down here after all of our hourly stuff. All right. So there was where it was set up hourly employee. Okay. Set up hourly employee. Validate radio button chosen. Validate common field. Set up hourly employee. It's a void. Okay. I'm going to move some stuff around in just a bit, but it's no biggie. All right. Just like we did up above. All right. I'm going to do the same thing. But instead of referring to an hourly employee, I'm going to refer to a piece worker employee. So, little success, LBL text, we want this to say number of pieces. I think we did this before and we weren't able to actually check it. So number of pieces and price per piece. Okay. All right. Now we want to validate those two things. So we don't want to validate hours worked and hourly rate. We want to validate number of pieces and price per piece. All right, finally, if that's going to be successful, we want to create a piece worker employee object. Just like that. For now, I'll take that one, comment it out. All right, and we'll write this one right now. All right, and I'm going to steal the stuff that I did up here. And then just make, change it around so that rather than referring to the stuff in hourly, we'll refer to the stuff in piece worker. All right. All right. That all should be good. Doing the same exact thing we did before. So now, hopefully we can write this. And just like before, I'm just going to steal what I had in here for creating this. Doesn't like something in here. Cannot convert. Oh, it's got to be pieceworker employee. Okay. Number of pieces. That is an integer. So that's convert to int. The heck is it? Okay. And again, I'll have to pass number of pieces and price per piece. All right, so you see there's not that many changes. There's not that many things that we've changed. I do want to mention something. You probably have noticed, or hopefully at least you noticed, that there's a lot of duplication here. And wouldn't there be a way to do this better than the way we've done it? The answer is actually yes, just so you see it. And if I have time, I'll see if I can fix this, but I don't know if I will or not. And that is every field that you put in here. I mentioned this in an earlier class, but I want to say it again. Every field that you put in here, every text box, really the labels too, but like for text boxes, they have a thing called tag. And we could set the tag. And if we set the tag, really the only ones we care about are these two. Every employee has this, every employee has this, every employee has this. But hourly employees here and here have the hourly stuff, and pieceworker employees here and here have the pieceworker stuff. So I'll see if I can add that if I have time. All right. Now, the problem is there is something goofed up in here, and I don't know what the heck the problem is. All right. I do have rad pieceworker, and I have rad hourly, so they're in there, but it is not recognizing. So I wanted to see something here, and that is, yeah, they are part of it. Okay, I'm trying to think of what the problem could be here. All right. And again, it very well could be something simple, but when I look here and I look under this, there's nothing being set here. Okay. And when I look over to here, I'm trying to see if there's something set to true or false that shouldn't be. Okay, this says locked is true. Can move or resize the control. I thought that was just for moving it around, so I think that's actually okay to be true. Stop. Because all that's going to mean is if I set that to false, I can literally move this. I don't want to move it anyway. But what I don't understand is why this is being set. So when we turn it on, we run the program, that is set to true. All right, so now you see this. I just want you to see. So if I say, make it a union member. And I come in and I calculate. Okay. Okay, that's part of the problem, but we'll fix that in a second. So if we say 50 here and 10 here, we should center that, but that's fine. All right. Union status. It's not grabbing anything, and that's all on me. All right, but what I want to do, and I'll look at it during the break. We're going to take one more break in just a minute. But what I want to do is very quickly go through this entire thing. All right, what I should have done, and let me just show you this. All right, this is the working copy. That's not it. It's there. Let me show you what it's supposed to look like. All right, and if I have to, I'll make the changes. But this is it. All right, and let me run it. Okay, so if I say hourly, you notice those pop in right away. And if I come in, again, if I leave it blank, in fact, let's run the program again. If I run it and I don't have either checked and I click calculate, all right, no employee type chosen, you must choose an employee type. Okay, so if I choose hourly, boom, those come in. Now, if I do this, no first name, no last name, no employee number. All right, so if I put in a first name and a last name and an employee number. All right, now it says following error has been discovered. Employee number must be between, that's when I used an int in here. So let's say 3333. Okay, so now it's saying that the hours worked must be a valid decimal. And notice if I put in something that's out of whack, it tells me what the, it tells me in here that it must be between this and this, etc. And I should have cleared that. I didn't, but if I put in 50 and 10, and I click calculate, there it's got everything and it all works. Okay, if I clear, now nothing is chosen, and I do it again, and I make it a piece worker, now it comes out to pieces made and price per piece. So if I say Jane Doe, and we'll say Jane is not a union member, and she made 56 pieces, and she gets a $50 per piece. All right. Now you might look at that and wait a minute, that's 56 times 50, shouldn't be that. I did that times 40 hours. All right. So 56, so that's 28 basically, times 40 is going to give you 1120. But everything in there is now working. I tried to duplicate it, but in my quest in duplicating it to try to make it better, I made it not work. I'm not sure why. So let's do this. This is the one I'm going to save for you. Let's take a break. It is 10:13. Let's take a break till 10:25, and I'm going to come back and go over everything that's in here. Right now, this is not in a class library. So I'm going to see if I can put it in one. So I'm going to come up here, add a new project, add a class library. Again, I'll make it employee library. All right. I'm going to grab my four classes, hourly, 3 classes, piece worker and validator and employee, those 4. And I'm going to copy them into the employee library. All right, they're now in there. I'll have to change each one of those. So instead of namespace pretest, it says namespace employee library. All right, now I can get rid of them here. So no more employee, no more piece worker, no more hourly employee, no more validator. Okay, but I do have to go into my project itself, as I've been doing, and go in and add a reference and add a reference to our employee library, say okay, come up here, and in here, in the form itself, there we go. We will, don't worry, those will be fixed by the time we get back from the break. All right, so using employee library. In fact, I think they'll be fixed now. They are. So let's take a break, 10 minutes, come back at 10:25. We'll spend 15 or 20 minutes going over this, and I'm going to put this right now. I'm going to take this and throw it out on a GitHub repo. All right, so it'll be out there momentarily. Mission denied. That's always lovely. Let's see. Let's exit. Now. All right, it is 10:25, and I did a lot of monkeying around during the break, if you watched. But just to show you, I now have a working version. So let me bring it up. For some reason, when I had the working version and I tried to save it into Git, it didn't. So I don't know why. I don't think I need this line in, but I'm going to leave it in there anyway. So there's the is present, is decimal, is in 32, and is within range. Nothing new there. That was the validator class. Let's see. The employee class, again, nothing new. I may have done it a little bit differently, but the stuff is still the same. All right. I used to always make, this is an older copy, so I used to always make my method starting with a lowercase, so that's got a lowercase d. I'm not even going to change it. All right, so there's the employee class. There's the hourly employee class. There's the piece worker employee class. It's basically the same program. All right. And if we come back into here now and close the employee library and bring up the pretest itself, it looks like this. Was a group box. Oh, I don't know why that doesn't work, but so just so you can see what's in here, this could have been done in a lot of different ways. One thing I was thinking of that I really should have done to be complete with things I've done in the past, and that is I should have really taken this information and not just put it here where it printed it out, but also add it to either a list of hourly employees or a list of piece worker employees. Okay, I'll see if I can do that right when the class ends today. But these are the same things you saw before. The employee number now is an integer because I'm using an older copy. All right. But this is pretty much the same thing that I wrote before. You can see when you look at it, you'll be able to tell what I've changed. I tried to just write it a little bit better than I did write it in here. All right. I take credit or blame for anything that's in here that is wrong, but I don't think there's anything wrong in here. Again, it's pretty much the same stuff you saw before. I called it just label 5 and label 6 and text box 5 and text box 6. All right, instead of LBL number 1 and LBL number 2. But other than that, I don't think there's really a whole heck of a lot of differences in here. All right. When you take the test tomorrow, you will be given the test instructions. All right. I've already taped that and it's going to be out there tomorrow morning. All right. You will have until Sunday at midnight to get this done. I would suggest going back, doing your homework assignments, those two problems, the letter assignment and the bank account enhanced assignment, doing those, doing your written tests, and then starting on this test. You may want to have this open, not the lecture so much, but you may want to have open the not the lecture, but you may want to have this GitHub repository open that I'm showing you right now. All right. All right. As always, I will be online between 8 and 12 tomorrow. So if you have questions, please get a hold of me and let me know. All right. And after that, I'll be in and out, but I do have an email on my phone. So if there's something where I have to get back and try to help someone, I'll be more than happy to. As I mentioned, I'll be in and out all weekend, but if you do leave me an email, I'll do my darndest to get back to you as soon as possible. All right. Finally, I just want to say one last thing, and that is we're pretty much on track with this schedule that I'd given you. Wherever there it is. So today we did the chapters 14 and 16 pretest. All right. Tomorrow, we're doing the chapters 14 and 16 hands-on test. It's possible that on Monday, we'll be able to do both of these lectures. That's what I'd like to do. We'll see. If we can do both of those on Monday of next week, all right, you're not going to have the only homework you're going to have for 17 is the written test. But if we can do this, then I want to do a couple link problems with you here. All right, if we can do these in one day, then on Tuesday, I'll do some link problems with you. Wednesday, I'll do some link problems with you. And Thursday, the 28th, would be a lab day, because otherwise you lose the lab day. All right, and I'm going to do my best, like I said, to do that and stick to that. And then once we come in and we're in April, we'll be getting into the database stuff. All right, and just last thing I want to tell you quickly is just so you know, and I've mentioned this before, after tomorrow, there are no more hands-on tests. You will have written tests for chapters 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22. All right. You will have homework for chapter 18. There'll probably be 3 problems, and probably we'll do 2 of them together. All right, for the link stuff. 19, there'll be 1 problem. We'll do that together. It's going to have multiple components to it. 20, 21, and 22, there'll probably be 1 problem, and we'll do that pretty much together. All right. Once we get into here, so when we get into here on April 1st, there is going to be a few things I'm going to do that day. Number 1, I'm going to give you chapter 19's lecture so we get an introduction to databases. Number 2, on 4.1, this is more for those of you where this is your first class. I'm going to show you a tool that you can download. It's drag and drop, where you'll be able to create your end of the semester electronic portfolio, and you'll have to do very little work. It's almost all going to be drag and drop. After we do that, I'm going to show you how you can take that and put it either right out on the internet where anybody can see it, or in a special part of GitHub called GitHub Pages. Those of you who had the AWD 1100 class last semester with me, we did that last semester. I'm going to do it again. All right. Finally, on April 1st, you're going to get, there's a final project in the class, and that will be handed out on April 1st. It may not make sense until we go over chapter 17, but you will get it then too. All right. So we've got, including next week, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks left. Next week, I didn't put it on here, but you probably all know this already. A week from tomorrow, there is no class. It is the Good Friday, or if you are an atheist or an agnostic, whatever you want to call that, we are off that day. All right, 1 week from tomorrow on the 29th. That will be the last scheduled day off for the rest of the semester. All right, that's about all I can think of. Again, please feel free to email me tomorrow when you're taking the test if you've got questions or something doesn't make sense. All right, with that said, have a good weekend. I will talk to you Monday.